Hello dear students, welcome back to Karim's Biology. And from today onwards, we are going to start our discussion about different organelles of the cell. And among them, the most important and significant organelle, and which is the largest organelle in the cell, is nucleus. So in this session, we are going to learn about the structure and functions of nucleus. So let us enter into the topic and let us learn something new today.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
If you recall what we have learnt in the previous session, I have explained about the experimental procedure to observe the nucleus in a cheek cell. And what did you observe in that? At the middle of the cheek cell, within the cytoplasm, we have observed a darkly stained body, which is called nucleus. As students, these are the cheek cells. Remember that we have taken the cheek cells by the scrapings from the inner side of the cheek, and when you put them under the microscope, if you observe them, this is how they appeared. And if you enlarge the single cell, you can find cytoplasm. The cell is irregular because it doesn't have cell wall, because it is animal cell. And at the middle of the cell, you can find a clear and conspicuous part which is darkly stained, right? This is called nucleus. And let us now discuss about the discovery of nucleus. Nucleus was first observed by a scientist by name Robert Brown in the year 1831. It is Robert Brown in the year 1831. He observed the cells under microscope of different plants and animals, and he commonly noted one point that within the cytoplasm of whatever the cell he observed, he found a nucleus. By this, he came to a conclusion that nucleus is not the separate part, it is in fact the integral part of the cell. That is why the credit of the discovery of nucleus goes to Robert Brown. And Brown had no idea about the functions of nucleus at the time of discovery, as it was a newly discovered cell organelle during that time in the year 1831, and there were no sophisticated equipment available to find out the role of nucleus. Robert Brown, he failed to notice the importance of nucleus. Now let us find out the location of nucleus. Nucleus is located in the middle of the cytoplasm in animal cells. Not exactly at the middle, but almost at the middle in most of the cases. Whereas in an adult plant cell, it is pushed to the margin due to the presence of large vacuole at the center. So let me show the picture. This is the picture of animal cell, and this is the picture of a plant cell. Now let us locate the nucleus in both cells. So this is the nucleus in the animal cell, and where is it located? Almost at the middle of the cytoplasm, right? And this is the plant cell because it consists of a cell wall, and of course it has a specific shape. So I can say that it is a plant cell. And where is the location of nucleus in the plant cell? Yes, this is the location. This is the nucleus in the plant cell. But did you notice any difference in the location of nucleus within these two cells? Yes. In animal cells, it is almost at the middle of the cytoplasm, whereas in plant cell, you see it is pushed to the periphery of the cell. It is almost pushed to the periphery of the cell because you can find another big structure here visible. This big sac-like structure that you see over here is the vacuole, and vacuole is bigger in plant cell than animal cell. In animal cells also you can find some vacuoles, but the size of vacuole is very less in animals comparative to the size of vacuoles in the plant cells. As the plant cells have a bigger vacuole, they almost occupy the entire cytoplasm. Because of that, all the other cell organelles, not only nucleus, you can observe here all other cell organelles, they are pushed to the margins of the cytoplasm because of the presence of a central big vacuole. Okay, so that's about the location of nucleus. In animal cell, it is located almost at the middle, whereas in plant cells, it is pushed to the margins due to the presence of a large central vacuole. Right, that's about the location of nucleus. Now, what is the size and shape of nucleus? Nucleus is the largest and most distinct of all cell organelles. The cells have so many cell organelles such as nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus. Like that, there are different types of cell organelles present in the cell. But among all the cell organelles, the largest one is nucleus. When I say that nucleus is largest, it doesn't mean that it is large as a rock. It means that it is largest when compared to other cell organelles. You can look at this animation. This is eukaryotic cell, and this is the nucleus, and these are all the other cell organelles freely floating in the cytoplasm. Okay, and now just make a comparison between the size of nucleus and other cell organelles. It is comparatively somewhat bigger, right? It is largest, having the size of 6 micrometers. And of course, it is most distinct of all cell organelles. Distinct in a sense that it is somewhat clearly visible. Then what is the shape of nucleus? It is mostly spherical. Spherical in a sense that it is round, and it is dense. Dense in a sense that if you look at the inner part of the nucleus, you can find some thread-like material, there is some liquid part, there are so many things present in the inner part of the nucleus which makes it a dense material. Okay, we will be discussing about what is present within the nucleus within a few minutes. Let us now come to the structure of nucleus. The nucleus has a double layered covering called nuclear membrane. Children, do you remember that we have discussed about cell membrane? And what is cell membrane? Where is it located? Cell membrane is the outermost membrane. Okay, so this is the cell over here, and this is nucleus, the outermost membrane. This outermost membrane is the cell membrane, and cell membrane is made up of lipid bilayer. The same lipid bilayer is also present around the nucleus in the form of a nuclear membrane. So look at the picture, it will be clearly understandable. This is the structure of nucleus, and this is the inner part of the nucleus which we will be discussing later. But you see, the nucleus over here is surrounded by layers. There are 2 layers in fact. So this is the first layer. Can you see clearly? This is the inner layer of the nucleus, and there is one more layer which is outer layer. So total how many layers are there? There are 2 layers which are surrounding the or encircling the nucleus. There are 2 layers. That is why the membrane surrounding the nucleus is a double layered. So we can say that the nucleus has a double layered covering. And what is it called? This covering is called nuclear membrane. So this double layer structure that you see over here is the nuclear membrane. This is the nuclear membrane, right? And then nuclear membrane encloses the nucleus and separates it from the contents of the cytoplasm. What is the function of nuclear membrane? Do you remember when we discussed about plasma membrane and cell wall? I told you that the plasma membrane is going to separate the cytoplasm from the external environment. Okay, it acts as a barrier so that the cytoplasm and external environment, they get separated from each other. In the same way, nuclear membrane also does the function of separating the contents of nucleus from the outside environment. And can you tell me what is present outside nucleus? See, this is nucleus, and what is present outside? Cytoplasm. Okay, cytoplasm. Do you remember that the jelly-like substance present in the cell is the cytoplasm? So this is nucleus. Now you see, this is nucleus here, and around nucleus there is liquid part, right? So this jelly-like substance around nucleus, in which all the other cell organelles are there, that is called cytoplasm. And what is the function of this nuclear membrane? The function is to separate the contents of nucleus, that is inside part of the nucleus will be separated from outside part of the nucleus. But there is a problem here. If the contents of the nucleus are completely separated to that of the cytoplasm, the exchange of material will not take place between the contents of nucleus and cytoplasm. And if that happens, the cell cannot survive, because nucleus is one of the most important part. It should always be in communication with other cell organelles. Then how does it happen? How does the nucleus communicates with other cell organelles if it is completely surrounded by nuclear membrane which is separating the contents of nucleus from cytoplasm? How is it possible? Yes, it is possible, because even though nuclear membrane is surrounding the nuclear contents, there are some pores present on the surface of the nuclear membrane. These pores are called nuclear pores. Yes, can you see here? There are some openings on the surface of the nuclear membrane, right? Can you observe these small openings here? Yes, there is an opening here. There is another opening. There is another opening. And these are the openings called nuclear pores. They are called nuclear pores. And what may be the job of nuclear pore? The function of the nuclear pore is to allow the exchange of material or transfer of material from within the nucleus to outside. And from outside, material can also enter into nucleus through this nuclear pores. So this is the nuclear pore over here. From inside the nucleus, the materials can go outside, and from outside, something may enter into nucleus also. So this is the function of nuclear pores within the nuclear membrane. The nucleus is filled with a semi-solid substance called nucleoplasm. Now let us talk about what is present within the nucleus. I told you that within the nucleus there is a material present, and that material that fills the nucleus is called nucleoplasm. So nucleoplasm, what is nucleoplasm? Nucleoplasm is the semi-solid substance present within the nucleus. So again, this is the nucleus, this is the nuclear membrane. Okay, can you see some semi-solid substance is present within the nucleus? Yes. Can you see these thread-like structures? Can you see these thread-like structures here? Yes, these thread-like structures that you see, they are filling the nucleus, and in addition to that there is also another big structure present within the nucleus again. And let us see what is that. Okay, so this semi-solid substance present within the nucleus is called nucleoplasm, and then within the nucleoplasm there are one or more round shaped nucleoli are present. Just now I told you that within the nucleus, again within the nucleoplasm, I told you that inner part of the nucleus is called nucleoplasm. Within nucleoplasm again there is another round shaped structure. Yes, this is another round shaped structure here. Can you see? Okay, this is called nucleolus. And what is the function of nucleolus? Nucleolus produce ribosomes. It is the place where ribosomes are produced, site for ribosome subunit assembly. This is the function of nucleolus. And what are ribosomes? Ribosomes are other cell organelles which play an important role in the process of protein synthesis in the cell. Okay, the nucleoplasm contains a network of dark colored fibers called chromatin fibers. DNA is present in the chromatin material. Now this is nucleoplasm. Just look at the picture very carefully. This is the outer membrane of the nucleus. This is nucleoplasm, and this is the nucleolus. And what do you see in the nucleoplasm? In the nucleoplasm, can you see some network of dark colored fiber-like structures, thread-like structures? Yes. Can you see these thread-like structures here? Okay. So these are called chromatin fibers. These thread-like structures within the nucleus. Don't forget, the thread-like material or thread-like fibers present within the nucleoplasm of the nucleus is called chromatin material. This is called chromatin material or chromatin fibers. Then what are they made up of? What are these chromatin fibers made up of? The chromatin fibers are made up of an important macromolecule, very important macromolecule called DNA. What is it? DNA. So the chromatin materials, these fiber like structures are called chromatin material. The chromatin material is made up of DNA. It is actually made up of DNA along with some other proteins. Then what is the full form of DNA? Full form of DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. So DNA stands for, D stands for deoxy, N stands for nucleic, A stands for acid. It is very important abbreviation that you have to remember. Okay, and what is DNA? DNA is the genetic material. What does it mean by genetic material? Genetic material is a substance which is responsible for the inheritance of characters from the parent to progeny. The chromatin fibers condense into short, thick chromosomes during cell division. Okay, you know children, I told you that the nucleoplasm is filled with fiber-like structures called chromatin fibers, and chromatin fibers are made up of DNA, right? DNA is in the form of a long thread-like structures. Then DNA, during the time of cell division, you know that every cell divides. That is one of the character of the cells. All living organisms, they consist of cells, and the cells, they divide and continuously form new cells. And when the cell is dividing and continuously forming the new cell, during the time of division, remember this point, during the time of cell division, not always, during the time of cell division, something happens. And what happens? The chromatin fibers, they condense and they turn into very thick, short structures called chromosomes. Now I will show you one animation which will explain about how the chromatin fibers condense into chromosomes. So this is the DNA. DNA is forming into chromatin fiber. DNA is coiling around some proteins here. These are the proteins, and these proteins are further coiled to form chromatin material. So this is the chromatin fiber that you are observing. This chromatin fiber will be further coiled and form a dark, thick structure called chromosome. So this is a chromosome. This is chromosome. Let me show you once again. This is the DNA that I am talking about. This is the DNA, and DNA is winding around some proteins. Look here, the DNA, it winds around some these are the proteins, and when the DNA binds around proteins, it is forming a long thread-like structure, right? This long thread-like structure along with the DNA and proteins is called chromatin fibers. Okay, that's what I told you. And these chromatin fibers are again coiling to form rod-like structures. Okay, so now what happened? All the DNA present in the cell, okay, it turned into a chromosome. Not all DNA. The DNA, some part of DNA turns into a chromosome. Like that, the number of chromosomes varies. Okay, but this is what something happens during the time of cell division. It is very important that the chromatin fiber, they remain as chromatin fiber as long as cell is not dividing. But once the cell is going to start dividing, then the chromatin fibers, they condense into chromosomes, right? So that's about chromatin material and chromosome. Now let us discuss about the functions of nucleus. Nucleus regulates all the cell functions, hence it is called cell's control room. Do you know the meaning of police control room? In police control room, there will be some officers in the police control room, and they will be controlling all the other policemen who are working in different parts of the city, right? In the same way, nucleus also acts as a control room. But which control room? As it is present in a cell, the nucleus acts as a cell's control room. Why it is a cell's control room? Because I told you that along with the nucleus, there are other cell organelles present in the cytoplasm. And who is going to control that cell organelles? It is nucleus. Yes, children, nucleus is going to control all the other cell organelles in the cell. Okay, that's why it is called cell's control room, and it is also called brain of the cell, because it is controlling all the other cell organelles. In fact, the functioning of the cell depends and controlled by nucleus. Why nucleus is able to control other cell organelles? Because there is something special present in nucleus. Just now we have discussed genetic material is present in the nucleus. What is it called? DNA. It is because of the DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, the nucleus is able to control other cell organelles. Because the DNA contains the information necessary for the construction and organizing the cells, and altogether about the characteristics of the living organisms. Okay, DNA, I told you in the previous slide that it is a genetic material. Why is it genetic material? Because nucleus is responsible for the transfer of characters from parent to progeny, or from one generation to other generation. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. There is a cell, there is a nucleus, and within the nucleus, nucleoplasm. Within nucleoplasm, chromosomes are there, and what the chromosomes are formed with? The chromosomes are formed by DNA. Okay, this is the DNA. And what else? The DNA contains information necessary for the construction and organizing cells. The DNA contains all the information regarding how the cells should be, what is present in the cell, how an organism should be, what are the characters that an organism should possess. Every information, all that information is present in the DNA. Okay, and how that information is present in the form of what the information is transferred, you will be learning in your higher classes. Okay, so that's about importance of DNA. And one more thing is the nucleus is closely involved in the process of cell division. Children, do you know what is cell division? This is called cell division. I told you just now that the cells always divide and form new cells. Okay, and how the cell division occurs? Cell division occurs with the help of nucleus, because it is nucleus that initiates the process of cell division and controls the process of cell division. Okay, that's why it is believed that the nucleus is closely involved in the process of cell division. And a scientist by name Schleiden, he thought that new cells were created from the nucleus, and he called it cytoblast. New cells are not created from nucleus, but nucleus is the control center where the cell division is controlled and new cells are formed. But Schleiden believed that nucleus is the place from where the new cells are formed, and that's the reason why he named it as cytoblast. Cytoblast means the place from where the new cells are formed. So who coined the name cytoblast to nucleus? It is Schleiden. Right? That's about the role of nucleus in cell division. Now let us discuss about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. On the basis of presence or absence of well-organized nucleus, cells are divided into two types. They are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, so basing on the presence or absence of well organized nucleus. First, let me tell you what is the meaning of well organized nucleus. Well organized nucleus means a nucleus in which there is genetic material, that is chromatin material, and the chromatin material is covered or encircled by nuclear membrane. So for example, if this is a cell, and within the cell there is chromatin material, nothing but DNA is present, and around the DNA if nuclear membrane is there, so this is nuclear membrane, this is the double membrane. I told you, no, around the nucleoplasm or around the DNA or chromatin material there will be two layers of plasma membrane present, which are named as nuclear membrane. If this is the condition of nucleus, that means if DNA is there and around the DNA if there is nuclear membrane present, that means, in other words, the nucleoplasm is surrounded by nuclear membrane. Are you getting my point? That means nucleoplasm, this is the cell, this is nucleoplasm. If the nucleoplasm is surrounded by nuclear membrane or it is bounded by nuclear membrane, then that is called well organized nucleus. That is called well organized nucleus. Okay, so basing on this, whether the nucleus is well organized or not in a cell, there are two types of cells. The first category of cells are called prokaryotic cells. So what are prokaryotic cells? Prokaryotic cells are the cells that do not have nuclear membrane bound nuclear material. Very clear. Prokaryotic cells are the cells that do not have nuclear membrane around the nuclear material. So example for this is bacteria and cyanobacteria. So I have given the picture of bacteria over here, and this is the bacterial cytoplasm, this is the cell wall, flagella, and the blue color part that you see over here is the cytoplasm, and this red colored thread like structure that you see within the cytoplasm is the, what is it? It is the genetic material, nothing but DNA, circular DNA. But can you see any other membrane around the DNA? Actually, the DNA or chromatin material here, it is clearly visible to you because nothing is around this. Suppose if something is present around that, if it is surrounded by nuclear membrane, then this chromatin will not be visible to you, right? But now chromatin is visible. Why chromatin is visible? Because it is not covered by any membrane. Okay, so in other words, I can say that in bacteria there is a nucleus made up of chromatin material, but that is not called as nucleus because it is not covered with nuclear membrane, right? As there is no nuclear membrane around the DNA, we cannot consider this as nucleus. Okay, it can be called as nucleoid. It is known as nucleoid because there is no covering around the DNA. That's why it is called nucleoid, or it is also called primitive nucleus. So in bacteria, around the nuclear material, there is no nuclear membrane. If there is no nuclear membrane, that type of cell is called a prokaryotic cell. So what type of cell this is now here? The cell is prokaryotic cell, and it is prokaryotic as there is no nuclear membrane around the nucleoplasm. Examples are bacteria and cyanobacteria. And the second category of cells are called eukaryotic cells, and eukaryotic cells are highly advanced when compared to prokaryotic cells. Then let us see what are eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells are the cells that have a well organized membrane bound nucleus. Let me repeat, the cells that have a well organized membrane bound nucleus. So this is the eukaryotic cell, because in eukaryotic cell there is chromatin material over here, there is nucleolus, there is chromatin material, and there is nucleolus, and around that can you see the nuclear membrane? Yes, the nucleoplasm is surrounded by nuclear membrane. If such is the condition, it is called a well-defined nucleus. That means in eukaryotic cells, a well-defined nucleus is present, which is membrane-bound nucleus. And what are the examples for that? Plants and animals. Plants and animals, they have all the cells which are having a well-defined nucleus in which the nucleoplasm is bounded by nuclear membrane. Okay, those type of cells are called eukaryotic cells, and those type of organisms that have eukaryotic cells are called eukaryotic organisms. So what are we? We are animals, right? So that means that in our body, the cells, they have a nucleus, they have a well defined nucleus. So in that way, the cells in our body are eukaryotic cells and we are eukaryotic organisms, right? I hope that you understood. Let me illustrate this concept with a different perspective. So this is nucleoplasm. Imagine this is nucleoplasm. Okay, imagine this entire area, entire screen is the cell, and this brown color is the membrane, and this green colored portion is the protoplasm. Just think like that and imagine that it is a chromatin material. Okay, so now the chromatin material is naked in a sense that it is not covered by any membrane. Can you find any membrane around this chromatin material here? No membrane. So what type of cell this will be now? Now this will be, this entire screen will be now what type of structure it is, because there is no membrane around the nucleoplasm. This cell now will become a prokaryotic cell. But now you see, yes, now what happened? There is a nuclear material here, but in this case around the nuclear material there is double membrane present, right? Now this happens to be a eukaryotic cell because here the nuclear material is covered with a nuclear membrane. So this is the meaning of eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. I hope that you understood. That's all for today. In my next session I will discuss about endoplasmic reticulum. Okay children, that's all for today. I will meet you in my next session.